Hi guys, I'm Dennis. Welcome to another episode of Life of a Plant. Okay, this is the variegated version of the Scindapsus jade satin. I have two more. The other one is variegated as well, but that is a half moon variegation. I will put a photo up here. And the other one that I have is just the regular one, the green variety, the non-variegated one. And that is not doing well at all. As you can see, it has a lot of yellowing leaves. I think its current location is not really suitable. It gets way too much light. The green variety doesn't need so much light. Just sometimes you get direct sun. Yeah, it struggles a little bit. But okay, we're talking about this variegated version. It gets a little bit brighter light to retain this beautiful variegation. And this particular one, okay, if you are thinking why am I holding two pots, okay, this is a pot of propagation of Dieffenbachia reflector. I don't think you can see that I'm experimenting with, and it happens that this is just sitting next to this pot of Scindapsus, and as this starts to grow, it got rooted into the potting medium, and I was trying to remove it earlier on, but it's very deeply rooted, so I will try to remove this. I actually do need to propagate this. As you can see, it's grown this really long vine. I'm going to snip this off and propagate the rest. I wanted to give you a moss pole when it was just a cutting. When I first got it, it was only a 3-leaf cutting. So yep, as usual, I procrastinated, and yep, this is what happens. So this Scindapsus has this beautiful variegation. It comes out yellow with this kind of marbly variegation. So as the leaves mature, the variegation will mellow down into this creamy white variegation. I believe this is actually rooted pretty deeply, so I got to be really careful. But anyway, just in time, because as you can see, this Scindapsus is primed for propagation. I got to be really careful not to break this long root. So this is the original plant and the new cutting. So I'm going to recycle the soil, but I'm going to augment this with something that's more well draining. So I have some aeroid mix here. Actually, this is way too big, but yeah, I'm just going to use a little bit of this. Look at how big the perlite is. This is a recycled nursery pot. Okay, I think this is a little bit too long, so I'm going to cut it further into half. Alright, so now I have two pots of variegated Scindapsus jade satin. This is the original plant. As you can see, most of the leaves have very good variegation. This is almost a half moon. And this is the cuttings. The leaves are much greener, but there are still some variegation in each leaf. So I hope this new leaf will survive the propagation. So I'll keep you guys updated on their growth, which I believe will be pretty fast, which is usually the case for Scindapsus. Alright, as I mentioned earlier, I have another variegated jade satin. Okay, this is the one with half moon variegation. As you can see from this leaf. I think when I first got it a few months back, it had about 2 variegated leaves, 2 half moons. This variegated leaf is the one that grew out under my care. But unfortunately, as you can see, the rest of the leaves are pretty green with no variegation. So I'm really concerned. The original vine is highly variegated, but as you can see, as the vine grew, the stem is totally green. That's why I'm getting all these fully green leaves. I'm not sure whether should I cut this up so that I can activate some variegated leaves from this node here. But this is definitely neglected because it's still sitting in this original pot with only sphagnum moss. So I need to repot this and give it a nice home with proper potting medium. And as you can see, there are some nice aerial roots already growing out. And there is a new leaf trying to unfurl, but I think it's probably going to be really small, just like the previous one. Okay, I've decided not to cut it first because this new vine is still pretty young. So I'm afraid it may not make it if I cut it. So what I'm going to do is to give it a small moss pole. I think you appreciate it. So I made this simple moss pole myself. As you can see, it's really raw, but I guess it will serve its purpose. Okay, let's get this out of the sphagnum moss and take a look at the roots. Oh, no wonder it's struggling because as you can see, there are some roots that are rotten. So I got to snip those off. Let me try to untangle this from the sphagnum moss, which is always a challenge. So luckily I watered this yesterday, so the moss is still pretty moist. So I got this as a cutting, pretty small cutting. I'll put a photo up here. I think sometime in September last year. I don't think there are many roots, so I got to be really careful not to break any. So as you can see, this root is already rotted off, and the black parts are the rotten ones, so I'm going to snip those off. So as you can see, there are some roots, not quite robust, but I think it should do okay to be potted up. So I'm going to use this terracotta pot, which is really small. I think it's only about 3 inches. And also some aeroid mix. Unfortunately, this is the only size I have and it will be super well draining. So I'm going to recycle some of the sphagnum moss so that it will retain some moisture. And I have some vermiculite as well. So I'm going to put in the moss pole first. Okay, so I'm going to use some cable tie to tie this vine to the moss pole. Just want to make sure that the aerial roots are touching the moss without breaking them, not too tight. Okay, usually I like to use those soft Velcro tapes, but I don't have any at the moment. Okay, not the nicest looking. And I think this pole is slightly slanted. Alright, so I try to get the aerial roots to touch the moss as much as possible. I guess as it starts to grow, it will slowly attach itself. So since this poor thing has been in only sphagnum moss for so many months, I think it's lack of nutrients. I'm going to give it some slow release fertilizer. Not too much because this pot is really small. So I'm going to keep the moss moist and I'm going to give it some water later. Alright, just a quick update. It has been 2 weeks since I've propagated this, and this is the original plant. Right, nothing much happened, but I'm glad I didn't lose any leaf. Except there is a new growth point here, which is activated because of the cut. That's pretty normal, where I'm really obsessed with this leaf. And this half moon as well. Okay, the other one was a vine that I cut off and potted it. The one with less variegation. So luckily the new leaf has unfurled with no issues, and yeah, there's a new leaf that's coming out too. So I'm really happy. This is just a quick update since it has only been 2 weeks. So thank you for watching this episode of Life of a Plant. So if you like contents like that, I appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel and also to on the notification bell. Meanwhile, stay safe. I will see you again in my next episode. And remember to show your plants some love.